Hello. We have been visiting together in this series the history of the great mind that represented the sage Pythagoras. Today, we're going to go deeper into some of his teachings that relate without arithmetics and also geometry, and we'll try to see through the scientific explanations and get his perspective to try to understand the secrets that he concealed in his study of the triangles, in his way of putting and arranging numbers in the tetractys, which both combine numbers and shapes, and also the secret teachings of his famous theorem of Pythagoras. Let's start by revisiting what we have seen during the last videos and moving a little bit forward. We have here, in the universe of Pythagoras, we have here the number 0. This is both the total potential of the creator being, that it is still immanent, and the infinitive possibilities that this white space, this white sheet can represent. Everything is possible within this empty space, but the creator, the universal mind, has not yet started its first movement of creation. In the Vedas, it is called the night of Brahma, where the creator, as we ourselves do in our everyday life, the creator is in deep sleep. He is in the night of his own creation, and he has not yet awakened to his creative potential. So this empty space contains within itself all the possible shapes that we can put into them, and when we think of the creator, the 0, as the symbol of both emptiness and infinite, come together to express all that can be. Okay? And within this space that is not yet existent, this place or this state of multiple, eternal, never-ending possibilities, the creator awakens. He opens his eye, his creative eye, what we now conceive as the third eye, and expresses itself as the first consciousness. He awakens and he says, "Oh, I and the dot appears in the vast infinitive of all that can be. This is the center of unity. This is the first expression of the opening of consciousness of the creator mind, the creative mind. And this is represented by the name number 1. Okay? So we have, as we do this, we are going to write here the tetractys. We are here, we are in this space in the number 1. And then, this I, this first consciousness that awakened and opened its eyes, says, I am. I am. He understands that he's awakened and that the process of creation is starting. So he reflects himself This is the overall potentiality of the mind of the creator, and the mind of the creator expresses the first thought. When he says, I am, he recognizes himself and he recognizes his potentiality of being. This is the first emanation, the first thought, where he reflects a thought from himself, and this first thought then creates the first duality. This creates then the first reflection, and then we have at this point the number 2 of the Tetakis. We have now that the creator is himself divided into the all-permeating principle, we will say the positive principle, but also that he has already given out from himself a first thought. This is the mind that emits the thought, and this is, on the other hand, the expression of the thought. And in between these two forms, the I and the am, the positive and the negative pole, there starts to be an interaction. There starts to be movement. There starts to be a current of energy that starts to interchange in between these two poles. And in our Tetakis, this represents now the second lever, the first polarity, the duality that started to create, and is represented by the second row, where we have the 2, the first polarity. And again, this positive polarity and this negative polarity start to interact between each other. They start to interact, and in this interaction they create friction, they create lines of energy, and from this interaction a third is generated. This third is the one that mediates and that appears to put in balance the negative and the positive. If we call the positive the father and the negative the mother, the male and feminine aspects of creation, the third that is created by the interaction of both is represented by then the sun. Okay? If the positive represents the solar aspect of creation, its reflection appears in the moon. If we look at the stars, and then between the interaction of sun and moon, as the ancients believed, the third is created, and this third is called the neutral point, the point of balance between the positive and negative forces of the universe. Is called the sun, is called the earth, if we are thinking in terms of our human and solar constitution. And this third is also, in other ways of expression, if we consider the positive, the spirit, the negative, the matter, then the third aspect represents the sun. So now we have these 3 aspects of creation, and I give different examples and different names just to accommodate to different processes of life, because this scheme of creation, which is represented by positive negative, and the equilibrium point happens all over the place. We are now mentioning this as the first emanation within the creation, before even that the creation as we know it is conceived. But it happens every time in our daily life when a human being is born, and in all the processes of nature. And Pythagoras knew it well, and he expressed this in the science of triangles. And he said, if you want to go out of polarity, of black and white, you have to find the third option. When you find the equilibrium within any situation in life, when you find the third position and in any problem, and you can draw the triangle, the problem is 2/3 solved. So this was a deep teaching, and we are going to look now why he's saying this. So we are now in the third level of the tetractys, where we have the two sides as positive, negative, and we have in the middle the sun or the other triangle. No? So we have now these three forces, and we are ready to start the real creation. And why do I say this? Remember that the minimal forms of matter that we know today, and beyond that we have just energy, but the minimal form of matter is the atom. And there's a basic structure for every atom in the universe, and this is a nucleus, and this nucleus contains the neutrons, the sun, and the positrons, the father, and this nucleus that have a positive charge then magnetize the electrons, okay? And the electrons are orbiting with a negative charge in different orbits around the nucleus, the center. And this scheme is universal. It's represented from the minimal aspect of matter, the atom, to galaxies and universes. So up to here, we're just speaking about energies and potentials. When from the interaction of the father and the mother, the positive and the negative aspect of creation, the third is created. The equilibrium is achieved. They form a triangle. And this triangle actually is not yet completely formed. There's a potentiality for a triangle, but we have 3 dots. And these 3 dots form 2 lines. And these 2 lines start to move and start to create space. Remember that we are here in the mind of God. Matter has not yet been created, but time doesn't exist yet. And space is all potential, but has not been yet expressed. So this angle, these 2 vortices of energy start to move in all the possible angles and interact between themselves, creating shapes and forms. And with this, they inhabit and create by their movement the space that we will call ether. By their movement, they give a shape, they create by their expansion and visiting different coordinates, and they create the field that will then be the receptacle of the whole story of creation. By their movement, they create the screen where the film will be projected. And in their movement, they achieved different angles. And when the right angle is created, when there is the perfect association, and after creating the whole matrix of expression, they assume a place where a 90-degree angle is formed. Then there's consolidation of the positive and neutral in the center, in the nucleus, and the negative start to orbit around. And the first atoms are created, and the triangle is finally closed. This is the moment where creation can appear. After the three have interacted and created the matrix and created the space, they assume an angle, a vertical angle, where horizontal meets vertical. And this red or 90-degree angles allows the triangle to be formed. When this first triangle is formed, then the atoms appear because the forces reorganizes and the matter is ready to be born. We'll continue to look at this in the next video. Thank you very much, and please join us in the next episode.